Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Salesforce Ben LinkedIn Live collaboration. So this time we're partnering with Plauti to discuss all things duplicate management. So duplicates in Salesforce have been an ongoing challenge for organizations, leading to data inaccuracies and operational inefficiencies. But fear not, today we have an exciting masterclass lined up to address this challenge head on and ensure good data quality. So while we wait for everyone to join, let us know where you're logging in from today. We always love to see what a global audience we have attending. All right, let's get started. Okay. Great. So thank you to everyone for joining us today. My name is Zaina Dar, and I'm the events content producer at Salesforce Ben, and I'll be your host for this event. I'm really excited to introduce to you Nico Miedema and Leslie Homar from Plauti, who are here with us today to help you take your duplicate management strategy to the next level. Nico, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Hello, everyone. Good to have you here. My name is Nico. I'm an account executive here at Plauti. Been working here nearly 3 years already. And over these 3 years, we've been helping companies with data management. And therefore comes this masterclass on duplicate management for Salesforce. I'm here with Leslie, our pre-sales engineer. So in case you audience have some difficult questions that I cannot handle, she's here to back me up in that sense. Good. Happy to have you guys here.
Brilliant, thank you. Now, before we get started, we have a few house rules to go over. So as this is a webinar, all lines are muted, but don't worry, we'll be having a Q&A at the end for you to ask the team any burning questions you may have. So feel free to submit the questions in the comments throughout the webinar. The webinar will also be recorded and will be available on our Salesforce Ben LinkedIn and YouTube channel, just in case you need to drop off or would like to share it with your colleagues. Great. Well, I'll hand it over to you guys to take us through the presentation, and I'll see you at the end for the Q&A.
Sounds good. Thanks for that intro, Zaina. And welcome, everyone. Once again, we're going to provide a masterclass on duplicate management on Salesforce. We're based in the Netherlands, so it's a good evening for us. I'm not sure if it's a good morning, good afternoon, good middle of the night for you guys. Thanks for joining this LinkedIn Live. And we're happy to be here and to have you on board. Once again, I'm Nico. I'm an account executive here at Plauti, and I'm together with Leslie, who is our pre-sales engineer. So we'll give you this masterclass on duplicate management. To get everything started, I want to kick off with a short quote. It's from James Bayer, who is a marketing and customer experience expert. And it basically says the following: we are surrounded by data, but starved for insights, right? And this is exactly what a lot of companies are facing. There's data everywhere, but we not always know what to do with the data. We don't necessarily understand it, or we don't find a purpose for it. We don't find a meaning. And that's exactly what we're here to do. Make sure that we can make decisions based on this data. So I'm sure you guys have been at situations where you use data to make up decisions. Say, I don't know, you're buying a car, for example, or in a company environment, hiring people, expanding to new market. I'm sure you weigh the pros and the cons, and that's all based on the data you will be using. But of course, not everyone does it. Not everyone understands their data. There's a bit of data more complex, and therefore people might not have the correct insights from the data. In fact, a study found out that businesses are missing on $5.2 million in revenue because of untapped data. So once again, coming back to this quote, another quote that Jay Bayer says is that the data is certainly there, but not everyone is using it. And that's what we're here for. We're going to make sure that your data is usable, actionable, making sure it's good quality, and making sure that there's no duplicates in it. Before we go into the actual deduplication and data quality, I want to run some numbers with you. As you can see on screen, the Data Warehouse Institute estimates that poor data costs business around $600 billion per year. IBM discovered that poor data quality costs the US economy $3.1 trillion per year. You can imagine how much that is. A survey conducted by the Experian Data Quality found that 94% of organizations suspect their customer data and prospects data to be inaccurate and affecting their business, right? So pretty high numbers there, if you ask me. What does this mean to everyone? Well, clearly it's data chaos, The chaos is everywhere, as you can see on screen. When you're going back to sewing your old clothes, the threads are over. It's a chaos there. That's where you don't want to start. Similar with experience with the Christmas lights just before you untangle those lights. It's a complete chaos. You don't know where to start. That's how the data looks for a lot of companies. This term of data chaos has been popularized lately, and it means that it affects the strategies you have because the data is so messy, right? Especially with the digital transformation era, since the internet, the worldwide is out there, many companies went through this transformation, and some are still going, which means and results that they're collecting a lot more data. As you can see on screen, on average, these companies collect between 1 and 12 million gigabytes of data, which is amazing, right? You want to collect data. You want to make sure you can make decisions based on data. The problem comes when you don't have correct data or you don't analyze that correct data efficiently. And of course, before we move into duplicate topics, which is the main masterclass, the main topic of the masterclass, let's see some of how bad data occurs in your Salesforce. There's many ways that this data can affect it and how it enters. So if we look at the different methods, there could be a lack of validation or verification. What does this mean? This means that data upon entry is not checked. Maybe you're collecting phone numbers, email addresses, physical addresses, but you're not checking them. You don't know if they're correct. Well, this is bad data. It's false information. It's data you cannot really use. Maybe they sign up with a disposable email address. Well, can you actually use that? Not really, right? Furthermore, inconsistent practices. If you're a global company or even companies that work locally, there might be different ways on how you do things. So maybe you store data in different way. There's different formats for storing data. You might be using abbreviations in all the data, or of course, spelling mistakes or different spellings in languages. The British and the US English are slightly different. So that could help, that could cause some hard comparison between data. Naturally, we're all humans, right? We can make mistakes. It happens. Even though it's a simple error, a human mistake, it still affects our performances, and therefore there's entry errors when we're adding data manually. We can maybe store the data in the incorrect field. Maybe we have some typos, also formatting mistakes, and so on. This one, especially for those admins there, I'm sure you guys know about this one. If you work on large data volumes, you're probably not working on hundreds of records, but thousands of records, millions of records. And when you work on such a high quantity of data, there's bound to be mistakes. If you're going to do some transformations, some updates, some bulk actions, that can get very messy very quickly. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. Furthermore, we have the lack of standards. If there's no data standards, there means there's no rules for the data to adhere, who's responsible of the data, who transform it, and so on. It causes a lot of problems there for data quality. And simple, straightforward one, incomplete data. You might have the first name, last name of a record, but you don't have their emails, you don't have the phone numbers, or you do have them, but on different records. All those, it's an incomplete customer 360 view, right? So there's a lot of ways how data, basic different ways how poor data comes into your data, into your CRM system. And of course, the elephant of the room, duplicate data. The data is there, right? There's always going to be some duplicates. We're here to make sure that we can get rid of them. And I'm sure a lot of you in the audience know how annoying this can be. It's one of the biggest challenges when discussing data quality in terms of CRM systems, Salesforce. I'm sure many of you have struggled with it before too. Actually, we have, based on a study we ran, we have what we call fun facts might not be the correct word, but a scary fact, let's say it as that, is that a staggering 80% of new records that comes in from integrations ends up being duplicates. So that's quite a lot. If you're using a lot of integration, imagine the amount and the volume of records that you are bringing in. There are duplicates, something that already exists in your database. And if we look a bit on a broader spectrum, over 45% are duplicates when we take into a look at all different sources. So it's still quite a lot. Half of the data you're collecting is nearly duplicate to what's in your database. which, well, if you ask me, that's pretty high numbers. So just to give an example, picture you're in the sales team, right? So picture you got your new leads, you're working on them, you're gonna go for your outreach. And as soon as you start engaging with those leads, you find out that one of your colleagues is already engaging with them. Well, how awkward is that, right? You wasted your time creating your cadence, your sequence. You make sure you have all the data you need when you're talking, just to find out somebody else is working with them. So a lot of wasted resources, wasted time, and it gives a very unprofessional image. Well, this is one quick example of how duplicates can give a headache to a lot of organizations. And of course, there's many more. You're not safe in any of the departments. You always face duplicates and the challenges that come. But looking at it, we mentioned the integrations, making duplicates. There's many more ways on how duplicates are created. So let's go to that first. Even whether it's intentionally or unintentional, duplicates are being created. One of the ways is manual entry errors. As we were discussing, maybe you're inputting data causing duplicates. Perhaps you're creating a new record, a new lead called Matt Smith. Well, there's already a Matthew Smith in your database, right? That would be creating a duplicate just because you didn't know the record already existed there. And the slight variation on the name. When you're importing data, you might be importing data from external sources. Inconsistencies can be there. Imagine you're working on a list where, for example, X company is treated differently as X Co, or ABC Limited Liability Company is different to ABC LLC, right? In theory, they're the same account, the same record, but in this list could be treated differently, and when importing the data, it would be seen as differently, causing duplicates. System integrations issues. If you synchronize between different systems, some changes might occur. Say, for example, you're working on an order system records for customers. If you have an A Smith there, while on your Salesforce it's Alex Smith, well, that's going to be a duplicate, as if the person had different aliases, right? It's also a matter of how you get duplicates. As we mentioned before, lack of standardization. Could be different formatting, could be different ways of spelling things. For example, date formats in the US is sometimes different than in England or in Amsterdam. Of course, abbreviations for states. NY is not the same as New York. US is not the same as United States, and so on. All these different little differences could cause for duplicates to be created. And of course, user oversight, right? As we mentioned, you might be creating a new record. You didn't know the record already existed, and this creates a new duplicate in the system. Is it your fault? Well, some will say yes, some will say no. The truth is, if we can tackle this from the beginning, it doesn't have to be anyone's fault. As you can see on screen, there's many ways how duplicates can enter, but what harm do they cause? Well, we're here to show you some of the implications. I'm sure a lot of you have faced a lot of issues with them. If you have any funny story or anything, please share it with us in the chat. We're always happy to hear new stories on how duplicate affects. Of course, it's funny to hear the stories if you've managed to fix the problem. Otherwise, it's still kind of annoying, if I'm being honest. So yeah, this usually starts in a little area of the business and it ripples out through the whole organization if it's not addressed, and it's disrupt all the people. It's annoying. When you want to go back at it, you have to use a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of, well, money to make sure it all fixed. And by then, a lot of the damages are caused, which is very annoying for everyone working. Some of the obvious implications, as I will show you in a bit, are poor reporting. Of course, you have weaker analytics, wrong insights. If you're focusing on a data-driven decision making, but you're basing those decisions on bad data, you can imagine where that decision making is going to take you, right? It's probably not a good place. At Plauti, we like to say garbage in, garbage out, meaning that if you put in garbage to your Salesforce system, you're probably going to get the garbage out, right? You're going to expect it to do miracles for you. Furthermore, we have wasted resources, as we mentioned. If you're trying to fix this, it will take time, it will take effort, it will take a lot of money to make sure that you're back to a healthy spot. And these are, well, resources that you could be using on other tasks, maybe a bit more valuable, maybe bring better ROI in that sense, rather than just tackling these challenges once it's there. Confusion and errors. You're bound to make errors. There's going to be confusion. Say, for example, customer success team, they're reaching out to the same customer twice, two different reps, right? Sending multiple communications, or maybe the data scattered across records. It's going to be annoying for everyone using the data to work with it. Poor customer experience. Well, adding on top of that customer experience example I just said, say they're actually a customer and marketing is sending them ads to buy your product when they already have it. Well, you see where I'm going, right? It's not a nice taste for your customer. They start thinking like, do they even know who I am, right? And now it's all about the service. It's making sure that we can, the customers trust us, and so on. So that's why having duplicates in the system can give a very bad or a poor customer experience. They're going to be left with a salty taste if you're reaching them twice or trying to sell them something they already have. Decreased productivity, of course, wasting time trying to find the correct record. Maybe one record has the phone number, the other one has the email address. Well, why are they not in the same place? Which record has the most up-to-date data? Those little things can, of course, affect your productivity. Your data integrity is compromised. It lowers the data quality. It lowers your integrity. It lowers your reliability. Takes away from that trust you have in your system. Takes away that trust from your customer 360 view, because you don't really have one, right? You have a fragmented view. And with fragmented views, you're bound to lose opportunities, to miss them. If the data is scattered all over the place, you don't know if there's actually potential for a cross-sell or an upsell or just a regular opportunity because of that lack of clear view of your records. A pretty obvious one, increased storage space. Well, you have more duplicates, you have more data, you need more storage. It all costs money, right? And if you're working on millions of records, thousands of records, that storage cost is gonna add up. And lastly, compliance and legal risks. For example, in healthcare and finance industries, there's probably more strict regulations, or well, we know for a fact there's strict regulations. If you have duplicates, that can cause you to not comply with the regulations and therefore have some legal ramifications, right? These are some of the issues, implications we see with duplicates. Of course, there's many more. I'm sure a lot of you in the audience have faced probably several of these or even more. So yeah, it's a pretty terrible picture if you don't address this. And I don't want to give you this bad image, but it is pretty alarming what duplicates and bad data can cause to you. So let's look at something more positive. Let's see how we can actually tackle these data challenges and these duplicates, right? There are several ways. One of them is using Salesforce itself. In Salesforce, basically the method would be to use algorithms and matching criteria to compare data and identify potential duplicates. This would involve analyzing various fields, such as, well, which typically see names, addresses, emails for the comparison, to mention a few. And based on the data in these fields, you will find patterns and similarities to identify if there are potential duplicates. Although there are some limitations on Salesforce, and that's why we see that a lot of, most organizations tend to go for a third-party solution. There's many out there that help you with, usually have more features, they're easier to use, and they can better mold and fit to your data structure. Now, if we look, as I mentioned, third party, sorry about the click there, it was a bit slow. Yeah, a lot of them use third-party solutions to make sure that they can address the topics. Now, if we look at actual deduplication, there's a few processes that you will probably follow, whether that's with the standard Salesforce functionality or with a third-party app. That would be basically starting with duplicate rules. In an overall view, you will be identifying duplicates, merging duplicates, and then most likely setting prevention features for duplicates to make sure you're fully covered. This will come down to duplicate rules. Usually an admin, and I'm sure a lot of you admins there have done this before, you will create a rule that defines what is going to be considered a duplicate. What fields am I going to compare between these records? I'm going to set alerts, prevent records from being created, just an alert or hard block, for example. On top of that, we will have a matching rule, which is basically when you've selected those fields, how am I going to compare them, right? What condition of comparison are you using between these fields? Is going to be different if you're comparing, for example, email addresses to websites. That should be a different matching rule, different matching method, and so on. Are you looking for exact matches, for fuzzy matching, distance between dates, and so on? No? There's a lot of varieties. And then lastly, you're probably going to do a duplicate job, which is running a report on your database to find these duplicates and focus on a mass merge rather than a one-on-one, right? To try and scale it up a little bit. You will search them on bulk based on the predefined filters, which were the duplicate rules and matching rules, to make sure you find duplicates in your database. And as we said, there's limitations on third-party solutions. That's why a lot of organizations look for third-party vendors, such as Duplicate Check in the App Exchange. That's our creation there. You can find these apps on the App Exchange. So you can make sure that with the limitations, you can address them on a bigger scale in that sense, to make sure that it molds better to your data structure. Before we move into those limitations, there are some tips that we highly recommend everyone to take along when working with data. First of all, implementing validation rules. Make sure that the data you're saving, if it's very important data, make sure that it's usable. For example, we'll see a lot email fields where you clearly see the syntax is not on an email format. That could be a strict rule for validation. Make sure that you're storing the data as it should be. That lowers the chance of errors when entering data manually, right? Furthermore, we have data import strategies. If you're working on imports, it's not your data. Make sure you clean it before you can format it properly. You can use different tools to make sure that it's clean before you actually import it. And of course, once you import it, make sure, and it's very important, make sure you do the correct mapping to avoid duplicates and bad data in your import, right? Train users on best practices. I cannot stress how important this one is. Plauti, this is one of our key, one of our key tips. Educate your users how to create records, educate them how to search for duplicates, make sure they have guidelines on how to use Salesforce effectively, make sure everyone is aware of this data quality culture, data quality project, right? For admins, I know a lot of you admins like to have everything in control, but that bottles up a lot of work. So make sure if your users are trained, if they know what they're doing, make sure that they can help you in this process. It takes a lot of the work out of you. You can, of course, limit how much they can do, but in this case, they will help you. They will allocate resources to that. They will make sure you have more free to do your admin stuff, to admin, basically. Plauti, we believe this is one of the crucial steps on it. And instead of having to clean all the mess by yourself, you have a team to help you, to share the responsibility. For the more regular data audits, of course, there's always going to be a few records that go through the cracks. Make sure you have data audits regularly to find those that slip in, either with Salesforce or with third-party apps. You can always make sure you go back to what's already in your database and clean it up. Establish data governance policies, clear data governance policies. Make sure that you know how to handle data. Make sure that you know who handles the data. Make sure you have rules on the data entry and the deduplication, right? Just makes it all a bit more standard to have these policies to help you out. And of course, third-party solutions, as solutions like Plauti, Duplicate Check, and other allow for more flexibility, more ease of use. They can better work on your data structure to make sure you have, well, the results you want, and that's a clean database. These are some of the tips. There's a lot more, of course. These are one of the big ones highlighted. This is definitely easy things to do that we recommend you to have in your mind when looking at data. But I've intended before, it's going to be do with Salesforce and third-party apps. Now, I've mentioned a lot of times that Salesforce has some limitations. So let's get through those now. Some of the limitations you might find on Salesforce. First of all, a bit of a disclaimer here. I'm not going to go very technical into this in-depth limitations. I'm sure a lot of you admins know all the tricks and tips on it. But if there's people there that are not very technical, I want to keep it a little bit of a high level. One of the is a basic matching rules. With all the different types of data, types of fields, you might want to be using different matching methods, matching fields, right? You cannot compare the same between long text areas or dates or pick lists. They're all different rules. They all should have different matching rules in that sense. Limited automation with Salesforce. It's hard to fully automate the whole process. And if it's not automated, that means there's more manual work. If it's more manual work, it means it's going to take more of your time as an admin or from the whole team to make sure that it's all at the levels you want it to be. We have performance constraints. Those working with Salesforce know, and if especially working with large data sets, you know how it can struggle with performance. It slows the entire process. So if you're trying to find duplicates with a huge database, it might take you a couple weeks, couple months. There's a limited customization. The level of customization Salesforce gives might not be as complex as your data structure. So it might not meet all the requirements you have when trying to merge, when trying to identify, when trying to make sure that during that merge, all the data is kept that you need. And lastly, something you have to take into account is a limited bulk capabilities that Salesforce have. You can work on certain amount of records, you can merge and process them, but it's not unlimited, so that you have to take that into account when you want to do all these mass actions. And as we've been hinting through the whole presentation, we recommend to overcome these limitations to use a third-party app such as Duplicate Check, right? There's a lot of added benefits from a third-party app. Customers duplicate rules. I was speaking from Duplicate Check since it's what we provide. There's other solutions there, but there's something we can offer, of course. With Duplicate Check, you can customize duplicate rules to allow users to create and customize the rules tailored to their needs, so that you can fine-tune them based on the criteria you want to use between either same objects, say lead to lead, or different objects, lead to contacts, lead to accounts, right? You can select the rules there on how to identify duplicates. We're a large data volume ready. We've run jobs with over 50 million records in a timely manner. Now that I mentioned timely manner, it's a bit vague. I'm meaning less than 12 hours. If you know a bit of Salesforce and its processing powers, 50 million records. Well, that's not going to be in 12 hours, I can tell you that. Real-time deduplication prevention, right? Both from manual entry, as we mentioned in the beginning, that can be a cause of duplicates coming in. We can alert, we can show you you're typing in your details, you see that a record already exists, you get a pop-up saying, hey, this data seems like a duplicate in your database. Are you sure you want to create a new record? Do you want to go and check that one up? And of course, similar with integrations, records come in, right? We can give you a report saying, hey, this just came in. It looks highly similar to what's in your database. Are you sure they're not duplicates? Or automatically merge them together, making sure that all the new data is added to the existing record, which would save you a lot of time, especially if you paid attention at the beginning, knowing that from integrations, 80% of the records coming in are duplicates, right? Imagine Well, that's basically 80% of the time you will be saving. Advanced matching algorithms. There are different types, different fields, different data. Make sure you know how to address them correctly, right? We're going to looking for an exact match between records, fuzzy matching, dates. You can find maybe on creation dates, distance between the dates, maybe different domains, different websites. All of those different fields should use different matching algorithms to make sure you have the best results. And of course, user-friendly interface. Duplicate check is native to Salesforce, so you can use that to make sure you have a very smooth experience. As we said, we believe that data quality, data culture, data management culture should be something for the whole company. And that's why, unlike many, we provide unlimited seats and usage to make sure you can share that responsibility with everyone. And before you start going at me in the chat, we can use permission rules and profiles to make sure not everyone has unlimited access to deduplicating or merging records, but you can limit the access on what end users can do, for example, and what admins can do. This brings me to the end of the masterclass. I hope, well, you've enjoyed, you've learned something, maybe something triggered your mind. Don't forget, if you take on these projects, you're not alone. There's a lot of apps, and we at Plauti are here to help you on this project. You can see my details and Leslie details on screen. Feel free to add us on LinkedIn. Not sure if the links are clickable. Otherwise, I'm sure you can find our links on the event description, or you can just find us on the App Exchange Duplicate Check. If you do contact us, make sure you let us know that you were here with us in Salesforce Ben LinkedIn Live. Who knows, you might get a little surprise from it.
Great.
Thanks back to you, Zaina.
Cool. Thank you so much for that really insightful presentation, Nico. Hopefully everyone attending now feels much better equipped to handle duplicates in their Salesforce instance. So now it's time for our Q&A. So if you have any questions for our panelists, please feel free to submit them in the comments below, and we'll try to get around to as many as possible. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. So do these functions require the paid for product?
Paid for product, yeah, we do have different, on Salesforce, they could be, depending on your Salesforce license, they could be there. On Duplicate Check, of course, there's different levels depending on your needs and requirements. You might not need as many requirements as other companies do, and the prices do vary there. The free version is there, of course, that you can use. It might, if for any chance it's limited to your necessities, there's always a possibility to upgrade to better versions.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so in the case where we're allowing a single email which can be used in 5 contexts, how would you maintain that with the duplicate rule?
I'm not sure. Leslie, do you understand a little bit?
5 contacts with the same email. And so if the email alone wouldn't identify that as a duplicate contact, you would want to elaborate on your scenario. You would want to add additional fields, something like first name and last name, perhaps company or phone number, something else that you can use as a comparison to identify the duplicate if the email alone is not enough.
Cool. Can we use data import feature in Salesforce for deduplication?
Yes, with a native solution like a duplicate check, you can import records in any way into Salesforce, and once they hit Salesforce, you can set up your functionalities to automatically merge them with a direct merge function, or to use, batch job functionalities to also identify duplicates.
Okay, Joshua is saying, my org has a lot of data we want to keep from the account connected to the contact. What is the best way to make sure when a contact is merged that the accounts connected to each of those contacts get merged also?
There are a number of ways that you can set that up. One way would be to set up scheduled batch jobs for both the contacts and the accounts. If you want to do some additional customization, you can also set up custom Apex code before after merge, so that after a contact merge, you can create a job for the parent accounts of those contacts as well.
Okay, fab. And do you lose data when merging records? Some questions from YouTube.
No, and it's extremely customizable what you want to keep in a merge. So the normal basic Salesforce functionality, you keep data in the master record, and the losing record gets deleted, and you can also lose the data from the losing record as well. But with a duplicate check application, you can set up custom merge rules, and you can choose which fields that you want to keep the data from the losing record and store them on the master record after the merge. There are also some other customizable options using Apex code, but our out-of-the-box merge rules. You're able to pick and choose what to keep and how to decide what to keep with no-code solutions. It's very easy. It's a very intuitive interface.
What are some differences in security between third parties and Salesforce when data processing?
So it depends on the third-party application. With a native application, like Plauti duplicate check, you're still using the same security of Salesforce. Your data stays in Salesforce. Your authentication and your user security is all set up in Salesforce. There are other third-party applications that are external to Salesforce, and those can vary with how the data is transferred, how the users are authenticated, and how that interaction is set up.
Cool. So if we track activities at contact level, do we lose task info stored at individual record when we use dedupe checker?
No, all the related objects like tasks are going to be automatically reparented to the master record.
Okay, great. Is it better to run a search at a lower threshold and obtain more potential duplicates, or should I run a report at a higher threshold first, and after that, data is cleaned up, then run a lower threshold search?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Normally, we recommend to start with a higher threshold, and this is going to take care of all of your more exact matches that are currently in your database. And then once, those are taken care of, you can kind of loosen that up and see what else is left, and, do it on a more manual or a more manual basis. So when you lower your thresholds, you can choose not to automatically merge them. And so you can display them to a user who wants to, review them first before we decide if they should actually be merged or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you recommend using multiple scenarios on the same object?
Yes, depending on what your data model is like, we would definitely recommend using multiple scenarios. You can tailor scenarios to the various ways that records are added to Salesforce. For example, you could have a different scenario run on batch jobs in your existing database than what you run on records that are added from external applications, like marketing applications. And you can also add multiple scenarios to the same type of record entry, and these can be evaluated together with an OR operator, so they can all be evaluated on the same set of records.
Cool. From your experience, what are some of the key advantages of using a third-party app for real-time user alerts when creating duplicate records instead of Salesforce matching and duplicate rules?
Yeah, should I, Leslie, or?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there's different limitations, right? As we mentioned, the matching criteria could be one of the things. With a third party, you might be able to use different matching methods, which will probably trigger more duplicates when you're creating than from what you want to do, right? You want to hard block records from user from creating records. You can have a pop-up that appears, hey, this record is in your database, looks awfully similar with what you're putting in. Do you want to click on it and check it? So there's different results based on the criterias, right? Third parties usually have more flexibility to make sure you find better results on the duplicates.
Thank you. Are there different recommendations for data cleanup on custom objects versus standard objects?
I wouldn't say that there's different recommendations. It just really depends on how you and your organization defines what a duplicate is in those objects. Custom objects are also possible in a third-party deduplication application. At least they are in ours.
Okay, thank you. So how do you recommend we get started with data deduplication?
Definitely implementing the tips we mentioned. That's a great start that we'll already see volumes going down. And then, of course, you can use third-party solutions. You can get in touch with us for that, or you can try out the Salesforce native way of doing it. If you find some limitations, there's always third parties that you can reach out to. We can find us in the App Exchange for Plauti duplicate check, and that will help you with the whole process. We can guide you through it.
Okay. And are there any good resources available for data deduplication?
Resources as in case studies or as in what to do or
Yeah.
common topics. Yeah, definitely. We have a lot of case studies on our website that you can read, webinars and so on. Of course, we have a support library where you can see basically common scenarios, common issues we come along with a lot of our customers, and best practices on deduplication and matters. So there's a lot of resources there for you to help.
Cool. So does Plauti's duplicate check pricing per month, is it based on number of Salesforce licenses that exist in the org?
It's not. As we mentioned, we believe everyone should be part of it. So we charge for one license, and you are free to share that license, the duplicate check license, with anyone in your org, and you can limit access with the Salesforce rules.
Okay, great. Well, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today. So thank you so much to everyone for attending. Hopefully you learned something new and now feel confident in tackling duplicates in Salesforce. So a big thank you to Nico and Leslie for sharing their expertise and insights with us today. Before we wrap up, any final words, guys, or any questions in the comments you want to address?
No, just thank you all for being here. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. And of course, our doors are always there to help if you need anything. But yeah, thanks for joining us in this webinar.
Yes, thank you so much for your time today.
Great. Well, thank you again to everyone for attending, and we hope to see you again soon for our next webinar. Take care, everybody.
Right.
Bye.